we need you seated so we can call up the next speaker. All right, Isaac, the next speaker is someone you've worked with, so can you just tell us a bit about the person and you call him up in some seconds while we have his presentation ready. We have started the second leg. We have started.
Yes, the next section is in session and we would like to take our seats. We would like to take our seats as we introduce our speaker for the next session.
It should be good to have us seated for our next speaker. He has prepared.
Yes.
And you also came to hear what it is that he will be sharing with us. So let's be seated. Isaac, can you tell us about the next person that is coming up to speak to us?
So the next person going to speak to us is a personal mentor and a father to me as well in this space. I've worked with him for about 7 years and we still continue to Yes. And so he's a wonderful man. Personally, I can testify that he's good. He has vast experience in the area of caring for children, alternative care programs, and he's an international figure. So I want you to take your time, be on your seats. I want you to just be calm and quiet as I go on with my introduction. So kindly give us some calm.
1, 2. Can you help me tap the person to your left, to your right? Tell that person the anchors are bringing up the next person. The anchors are bringing up. So those on this side, tell the person beside you the anchors are bringing up the next person. All right, tell that person. Shh. Those at the back, you are guilty. We'll call security for you. All right, we need to get started. All right.
Okay, so can we all be seated? Those at the back, those behind. Can we all be seated as we continue to welcome our next speaker? You remember I told you about something about Ghanaians, that please is very important to us. So I'm going to use that word right now. It's our magic word. Please. Can we all be seated? And can we all have some calm in the room? Thank you very much. So for those who did not hear, some people said they did not hear me from behind. And so I'm going to start all over again. I said we have a wonderful speaker in our midst this morning. He's someone I'd worked with. So I see him as a mentor and a father in the space of care reform with vast experience in the area of alternative care for children too as well. In fact, he has worked from local to regional levels and international level, leading various teams and various groups that deliver services and support children who need care. And so you can imagine his reach all over the world. He is supporting people. He used to be my director of regional programs at Bethany Christian Services. And now, I'm glad to say that he is the director of network development at CAFO, Christian Alliance for Orphans and Children. Do you want to know who this man is? I can see people already excited. And so, with the clap, we want to welcome Mr. Sibilu Boja. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac, for the kind introduction. I am very excited to be here among you. I can't count how many times I have been to Ghana. So this is my second home next to Ethiopia. And I want to congratulate you on your win yesterday. And if there are some England fans for you as well, it's good to be here when your national team wins. And I know every single person I know in Ethiopia is cheering for Ghana. So the whole nation. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start with a West African proverb that says, "The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people." I would like to suggest the reverse is equally true. The renewal of a nation begins in its homes. And that's precisely what we are gathered to advance, a movement to ensure that every child in Africa grows up in a loving and nurturing family. Today, I want to speak to you about a specific and strategic actor in this work, national networks, and the critical role they can and must play in moving us from commitment to actually implementation of family-based care across West Africa and beyond. Let us begin where hope demands we begin, by celebrating real progress. Over the past decade, the landscape of alternative care across Africa has shifted meaningfully. Governments have demonstrated political will. Laws and policies have been revised and aligned with international standards of best practice. This did not happen overnight. It took years of advocacy, coalition building, and sacrifice. And let us honor that work. We have also seen encouraging movements in practice. NGOs, churches, and government agencies working in concert have created formalized alternative care options, kinship care programs, foster care frameworks, and domestic adoption pathways where none existed before. Whether we call it care reform or orphan care, the end goal is the same: children thriving in families. In the African context, this represents both an enhancement of existing traditional family structures and an extension of them. And it's a profoundly significant development. But honesty compels us to name what we all know. There remains a vast gap between policy and practice, between commitment and implementation. And I believe 3 facts anchor this reality. Fact number 1, while most African governments have expressed commitment to alternative care, resource allocation remains minimal. The sector is still largely driven by external funding, flowing through NGOs and UN agencies. Public investment in social services is far too thin. Fact number 2, capacity constraints are severe. There's a critical shortage of trained social workers, and infrastructure for case management and data systems is weak across most countries in the region. Fact number 3, the availability of alternative care services is simply not reaching where it's most needed. In the very communities where the highest concentration of orphaned and vulnerable children, there are often no services at all. These are not reasons for despair. They are a map. And that map tells us exactly where national networks must go to work. So let's talk about national networks. Before we can speak to what networks should do, let us be clear about what they are. National networks are collaborative platforms, bringing together NGOs, churches, and community organizations, advocates, and government allies under a shared vision. Every child belongs in a loving family. Their formation has been organic in many cases, growing from relationships of trust that gradually built into shared purpose. They carry different names in different countries, alliances, coalitions, movements, but they carry the same lofty calling. And here is what makes networks uniquely powerful. They are not another program delivering services. They are the connective tissue that makes the whole system stronger. They multiply impact by aligning effort, reducing duplication, and creating a unified voice for children. At CAFO, we believe that networks, when functioning well, are among the most catalytic forces in this sector. The Better Together vision that guides our approach to networks centers on three essential areas of focus. I want to use these three areas today to outline a practical action agenda for what national networks in West Africa can and should do. Pillar number one, awareness and mobilizing the community for children. The first role of a national network is to sustain awareness, shifting hearts, minds, and culture towards family-based care. In West Africa, the church is one of the most trusted and far-reaching institutions in society. Networks are uniquely positioned to engage faith communities not merely as donors, but as active participants in care, as foster families, as kinship support systems, and community champions. I want to suggest some action items for national networks here. Number one, develop and disseminate contextually appropriate messaging about alternative care. Messaging that resonates with African family values, traditional kinship care systems, and faith frameworks. The language of family-based care must feel familiar and local and not imported. And mobilize churches and faith networks through structured engagement programs, training pastors and faith leaders to preach and teach about the call to care for vulnerable children. Create national campaigns around significant dates like Day of the African Child and other locally relevant dates that elevate public awareness of the need for foster and kinship families. And you can also combat harmful narratives that stigmatize children without parental care and discourage families from fostering. Social norms change through sustained community engagement, and networks are the platform for that engagement. And the goal of this pillar is simple. No family should want to care for a vulnerable child and not know how. Networks close that gap. Pillar number two, expand quality family-based care options. The second pillar is perhaps the most urgent given the gap between policy and practice. We have identified national networks must actively work to expand the availability and quality of family-based care. This is not about networks becoming service providers themselves. It's about networks creating the conditions under which member organizations and government partners can provide better care more widely and more consistently. And I want to also suggest some action items here. Map the landscape of alternative care services in each country. Identify where services exist and where they are absent, and where the greatest concentrations of vulnerable children are found. This evidence base is essential for strategic planning and advocacy. Build a shared common resource library, training materials, case management tools, best practice guides, and family support resources that member organizations can adopt and use. Most small NGOs and churches cannot develop these tools on their own. Networks make this possible. Facilitate peer learning and capacity sharing among member organizations. a church in Lagos that has successfully run a foster care program for 5 years has lessons that a new organization in Accra needs to hear. Networks create those connections. Establish minimum care standards and support members in meeting them. Quality matters. A network that mobilizes 100 families but provides no training or support is not serving children well. Networks must champion quality alongside quantity. And engage and support the social workforce. Where government social workers exist but are overstretched, networks can complement by training community-based volunteers, linking them with formal systems. This pillar is about ensuring that when a child needs a family is available, prepared, and supported. Pillar number 3. The third pillar is advocacy. And it is here that networks have a power no single organization possesses alone. A lone NGO speaking to a government minister carries limited weight. A national network speaking with a unified voice representing dozens of organizations and thousands of practitioners carries authority. This is the power of collective advocacy. And I also want to suggest some action items here. Engage government stakeholders consistently and constructively. Networks should build ongoing relationships with ministers of social welfare, gender, and children affairs, not just in moments of crisis, but as trusted partners in system building. Attend government working groups, contribute to national plans, be present at the table. Advocate for dedicated public funding for alternative care. The dependence on external funding is a structural vulnerability. Networks must make the case, and with data, that investing in family-based care is fiscally sound, socially transformative, and nationally strategic. Support governments in translating policy into operational guidelines. Many countries have good laws that no one knows how to implement. Networks can bridge the gap by supporting the development of practical procedures, training curricula for government workers, and referral pathways. Networks can also monitor and report on the state of alternative care in their countries. Accountability requires data. Networks should publish regular updates on progress and gaps, holding with both government and civil society accountable to the children they serve. I would like to make a closing call with some really important points that I want all of you to pay attention to. We've spoken today about facts and frameworks, and a lot of it has been alluded to by speakers yesterday. But let me close with something more fundamental. Behind every statistic is a child. A child who woke up this morning without a parent to make a breakfast, without a family to come home to, without the simple, profound experience of belonging. That child is not waiting for a perfect policy. They are waiting for a family. National networks are not the heroes of the story. Families are. But networks are the infrastructure that makes it possible for more families to say yes, to be prepared, to be supported, and to be celebrated. The theme of the summit, from commitment to implementation, is from commitment to implementation. That journey from a signed law to a child placed in a family is not automatic. It requires coordination, trust, resources, and relentless effort. That is the work of networks. To every national network represented here, you are not a peripheral player. You are a central one. The children of West Africa need you to be bold, to be collaborative, and to be persistent. And let us leave this summit not just inspired, but activated with a clear sense of what each of our networks will do differently going forward. Because together we are better, and together we can ensure that every child in Africa belongs in a family. And thank you. I would leave you with a video from Ethiopia that KFOR was able to produce last year. And it's about a network in Ethiopia called Double that I had the privilege of being part of. So we'll watch that video, and I hope it showcases what I was just speaking about. And thank you for listening.
In the Ethiopian context, family means everything. It's a center of the community. It's where you form the major identity of yourself.
It's really larger than the nuclear family.
Children are given from God to live in a family.
God has been shifting a culture of adoption and orphan care ministry in Ethiopia. There's a lot of great organization coming together to solve this big problem in Ethiopia.
The challenge of orphan care is immense.
This is a house.
There are more than 5 million orphan and vulnerable children in Ethiopia. They are exposed to a lot of difficult situations that no child should go through.
Over the years, many traditional social institutions have been weakened because of social problems like HIV and AIDS, disasters and famine and war and so forth.
More and more children live without parents. They need to belong somewhere, and that somewhere is in the family.
Most people feel like adoption is becoming a second class of the family. Also, it's a cultural stigma where you feel like, what would the community say?
People believe that an orphan child brings bad luck. People tend to believe all those kind of myths. Faith actually breaks those kind of myths because it actually portrays the picture of what God has done. God loved us, just as we are, and He calls us to demonstrate His love, including these children.
This kid's story is also my story, every Christian story. I was an orphan first. I was out of God's kingdom. He brought me home. He adopted me. So that's why it matters.
So 10 years ago, adoption was not a culture in Ethiopia.
The closure of the intercountry adoption really forced the country to move into exploring what other options to care for our orphans and vulnerable children.
The question I had was, how can I engage my own people for orphan ministry? The first time I was attending the summit was in 2012 in California.
I remember meeting Balai and Dinswe there at the KFOR summit and say, I think there is possibilities that we can do something like this in Ethiopia.
We realized that each individual, each organization, each church is doing their own thing. There isn't really a collaborated effort.
I came to Ethiopia and I found like-minded people and start talking about it, doing small things, visiting orphanages and children's home.
And that was the beginning of Double.
The name Double, it means farmers coming together for harvest.
God is a farm and there is a harvest, and few people are not enough. They cannot solve the problem of orphan care work in Ethiopia. We come together to do our Father's business. God is our farmer and we are here to participate in His work.
So the summit is a place that all these organizations, individuals, people who want to adopt, foster, come together. They hear the word of God, they hear different experiences, best practices, and they learn from each other.
unity within our own culture is very important. When you see devil, like-minded people came together and we said, look what KFO is doing. Can we adapt this culture into our culture to address the same message?
I started working with Debo when they just began, but I've gotten to see them grow deeper. As KFO, this is what we're hoping to see happen. This is not KFO doing it, it's us being the cheerleaders behind these network leaders, these organizations, churches, as they serve Jesus, as they glorify Christ, by truly helping children and vulnerable families in their communities.
So when I see different organizations leaving our ego and logo outside and come together just to celebrate life, it's a beautiful thing.
What we've seen continuously grow over the years is results. We've seen now thousands of kids placed in Ethiopian families.
Pastor came to our church and invited us to the very first Debor Summit. I heard about adoption and felt an obligation to do this work. I felt that it would be worship to God. The first time I picked him up out of his crib and held him, he was not healthy. He was just skin and bones. As I held him, I told him, I'm sorry, I was late to take you and be a father to you. Since my wife and I adopted, I've been talking to people to do the same thing. People will be scared and say, what if we can't love them the same? And I tell them, they're all the same to me. And it is such a big blessing.
We've also seen some of the regions holding their own mini summits, inspired by the summits they have attended in Addis. The summit has really become a platform for encouragement to do the work in between the summits.
So we're at Hope for the Fatherless. This is Hope House.
We work to place orphan and vulnerable children into a loving family.
We got 10 kids from the government orphanage, put them in a very safe environment. So we put them in school. But more than anything, we started giving them love and affection. We started to see a lot of change.
Caring for orphans, it requires a heart, but also it requires mind, and we're learning a lot. And the other aspect is a case management system. We got connected with BEB and CFS. Their software is amazing.
What BEB does, we have built an application that is mission-based on helping get children out of institutions and into families.
We started with Hope for the Fatherless, and that was the seed. In time, we started working with Devo. It expanded our reach. These are not just files, these are their identity.
CFS acts like a digital nervous system, beginning to connect up all those partners, beginning to say, how do we have the best outcome that's possible for that child?
It's not our work. We are partnering with God, and to see other organizations that trust God and that labor with God, it's really amazing. It's not an easy job, but so many of God's soldiers are working to fulfill what God has entrusted them with.
My heart is full right now, being able to see Ethiopian families adopting, fostering, bringing children into their homes, being supported by churches, seeing these organizations all coming together. That concept of Debo, that concept of collaboration has been just incredible to watch.
We've seen the continuum of care shifting for this country.
And it's been amazing to see a lot of churches and followers of Christ adopting children to their loving family.
God's church is the answer. We are God's ambassadors in this world. We are the light because this is the church's mandate and really lead the way in orphan and vulnerable children care.
As long as we are willing to say, Lord, here am I, use me for your glory, in response to the needs of the children, there is nothing that can stop us.
My hope is in every country in Africa, if we can have like-minded people to come together, commit for one another, love one another, we can change Africa.
Where we can begin to see the church really coming alive, together saying, we can make it, we can do it. There will come a time where we will not talk about institutions, but we'll be talking about families.
Yes, it is.
you so much. Partner, we're actually partnering. One thing that Mr. Sebilu Bodja said that stood out for me, and because we have a lot of networks here, we just want to reiterate it. He said that one of the ways to move as a network is that it's not just for networks to implement, but it's up to them to set standards for practitioners. And that was something worth repeating, and I just hope that we take that. Please let's give him a resounding round of applause for such an amazing presentation that he did. Thank you. As we move forward, we'll be inviting Ms. Ene Oklo to just give us a quick energizer before we move to the next talk. Please, let's stand up and give her a round of applause. Let's energize. Let's all be upstanding. Let's all be upstanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Yoni. Okay. If I've said hello to you this morning, hello again. If I haven't said hello to you, hello. All right. Okay. So, a quick icebreaker. Where we come from, on the plateau, Jos is really cold. So when we say, let's break some ice, it feels like we're literally breaking some ice. However, here it's not cold, so let's just move our body a little. But before we go, please can you take off your shoes? Look, if you can. I'm not wearing any shoes. In trauma-informed care, it helps with blood flow, and earthing is really important. Only if you can, if you're comfortable taking off your shoes, then please go ahead. If not, it's fine. All right, so this this exercise is called horse racing. You know what it means to race? All right, so you're gonna put your knee together and go down this way. And when I say get your horses ready for race, you tap twice. Imagine that the horses are coming out. All right, preparing for race. And then when I say horse racing, 1, 2, go, you tap. We're going on a race, right? You tap. And if I say faster, you go faster. And if I say faster, we go faster. If you hear me say obstacle, you hop, like you're jumping over an obstacle. Okay, you hop. All right? And because we are gender and culturally sensitive in this room, that's trauma-informed care. When I say finish line, you find someone and you shake the person and smile. Do we get it? All right, let's go. All right, everyone get your horses ready for race. Are we ready? All right. 1, 2, go. Horse racing, everyone. Horse racing. Horse racing. Faster. Faster. Obstacle. Oh. All right, keep racing. Keep racing. Faster, everyone. Faster, and finish line.
Thank you, Anna. Please let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we have our seats back? Can we have our seats back?
All right. I think some people jumped too high, their chairs fell down. Our chairs fell down. All right. Sorry, please, 1 minute. All right, very quickly, we'll need us to do something. Very quickly, can you bring out your phones? Bring out your phones. It's not a picture. Bring out your phones. We'll need as many of us who are not yet connected to Waacs platform to be connected. So we'll first do. No, oh my God. If you have data, can I say hand up? If you have data network, I know some people have. All right, so some people have. How do we? Okay, we'll work something out, then we'll do this later. Thank you for reminding me. And we apologize for that. We apologize for that. All right, the next talk we will be having is titled Care Reform Experience. Care Reform. experience sharing from East Africa. Care reform, experience sharing from East Africa. We'll be having two people do the talk. We'll be having Stephen Uchembe, forgive me, and Immaculate VDVK. My apologies for the name. Stephen is the regional advocacy manager for Hope and Homes for Children, and Immaculate is the executive country director also for Hope and Homes for Children. Please, a round of applause for them as they come up. Please keep clapping. Now, this is how it's going to be. Stephen will take out some time to speak to us concerning Kenya. Then after a while, we would have a video. Then we would have Immaculate come up to speak for Rwanda. So please, a round of applause for Stephen as he takes us further.
Okay, good. Sorry, my watch is still in Kenyan time, so it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I can see you're listening. So my name is Stephen Usembe, and I'm from Kenya. So greetings from Kenya, and congratulations for Ghana. I know we are not that good in soccer, but I don't think you can beat us in athletics, the race. Anyway, thank you. We have competitors from Ethiopia here. So I'll start by sharing something small before we move on to the next slide. So in 1990, a boy 5 years old was placed in an orphanage together with his two siblings after the passing of their mother. Their father was still alive at the time, and he had 3 other siblings. So this little boy spent the rest of his childhood in an orphanage nearly 300 kilometers away from the rest of his family. 10 years later, he finally met his other siblings. The eldest sibling told him that their father had visited them once, but during that visit, he was warned never to return again. If he did, the children would be forced to live with him, and they would not be supported with their education and all other things that were being provided by the orphanage. So that is just one story, that every child in an orphanage has their own story. There are stories of separation, there are stories of abandonment, of choices that we make for them. That boy is now a man and is standing before you. So that boy is me. Thank you. So next slide, please. So today I was given actually a broad topic. I was told to talk about East Africa, but East Africa is huge, and I couldn't put everything within the minutes provided. So I said, we have Rwanda, we have Kenya, so it's going to be a case study. So a little bit of context. Kenya has approximately 3.6 million orphan and vulnerable children. Majority of these children are cared for and supported in families and communities, especially kinship care. Of the 3.6 million children, about 45,000 children are living in orphanages, which are formally recognized as charitable children institutions. Some of the push and pull factors include poverty, which includes things like access to education, healthcare, shelter, and other factors such as family breakdown, harmful cultural practices, early marriages. There is also female genital mutilation. We also have disasters that are happening. And lastly, and also quite significant, is that there is violence and abuse in families and communities. Slide 3, please. So why care reform in Kenya? So why did Kenya embark on the care reform journey that started at about 2014? So we all know, of all we've all had, that over 80 years, that's 8 decades of global research, really shows that institutional care, that is children's homes, some of you call them orphanages, there are some of us who call them even villages, that they actually harm the physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development of children. And just to add, they really don't strengthen a sense of identity and belonging for most of the children, as we've all heard from as we all heard yesterday from one of the care leavers here. So over 85% of the children who are living in children's homes, and we saw that in Kenya as well, that they are not actually orphans, and speakers here have actually mentioned that now and then again, that indeed that with the right support, that they can actually safely grow up within their families and communities. Many institutions in Kenya operate illegally or fail to actually meet care and protection standards. That's one of the reasons why we embarked on this journey. Sorry, I need to do something here. Yeah. Also, the Constitution of Kenya and the Children's Act 2022 recognize that the family is the fundamental unit of society. That for a child to grow up holistically, that they can't grow up without a family. So that's also very fundamental. Thank you. Sorry, next slide, please. So they are quite, we have quite some ingredients that are needed for us to move from just rhetoric to real care reform. And I'll share some of the experiences here. One of the key lessons is that leadership is key. And I'm happy just listening to the government here in terms of what they are doing in terms of making sure that there is care reform and care reform is happening. So in Kenya, we have what we call the National Council of Children's Services, which is mandated to regulate, coordinate, and oversight child protection services, and also advise the government on all matters related to children. But there are key things that I need to mention, especially when it comes to care reform, that the council coordinates all stakeholders within the care reform sector, that is including all the government ministries, the CSO, the faith-based organizations, and other development partners. The council also spearheads the development and review of all legislative policy frameworks to support the care reform process. Next slide, please. The core role of the National Council for Children's Services in Care Reform includes those 5 things: regulation and oversight, policy development, there is coordination of services, there is also compliance, making sure that the laid down policy standards are being followed, but they also have another key role that involves awareness raising. We are not there yet. There are people who are still not understanding why care reform, so it's always important to make sure that awareness raising is going on. Next slide, please. So another key lesson we've learned is that to truly lock in care reform, you need strong laws and policies. Governments may change, leaders may come and go. As you all know, we do our voting, we have the voting cycles in Africa, but these frameworks, they leave behind remain. You know, the frameworks are key. They guide the next administration and ensure continuity. So Kenya has already made important strides in building these frameworks, and our progress is what will actually now sustain care reform in the future. Let me just mention one thing, that indeed policies and regulations are important, and I know someone else has also mentioned this, but it should never stop there. If I tell you how many documents we have in terms of care reform in Kenya, it could reach me somewhere around here. We have standards, we have regulations, we have manuals, guidelines, all sorts of them. But one thing remains, and it has been mentioned by all of you, implementation. So, and for me, implementation is for us to really hold ourselves accountable, but also to be able to hold the government accountable. So I feel like we shouldn't always blame the government that it's not doing something, but also I think we should ask ourselves, what are we also really doing? Next slide, please. So one key document that I want to mention is the National Care Reform Strategy 2022-2032. So this document is our guide for care reform. And it has three important pillars. Pillar number one is prevention. And within this pillar, it's all about ensuring that children and families have access to what they need. Children end up in orphanages because they lack education. So prevention means, why don't we be more proactive, anticipatory, and address the challenges of education? The other concern is healthcare. So the children who are there because whether it's HIV and AIDS or other diseases, the question is, why don't we address these issues within the family? The other issue is, again, broadly social protection. And again, social protection covers a number of things, whether it's health, education. For us, we have a social protection mechanism that supports the elderly, those who are severely disabled, but also those who live in arid and semi-arid areas. And it's all about, economic cushioning. So again, if we are able to provide some of these services, many of these children won't be ending up in the orphanages. And so often we find ourselves at an environment whereby we are so quick, we are very reactive, and we are not proactive. And so my emphasis is that when you are doing your interventions, really try to see that we are doing more of prevention rather than being reactive. Provide the psychosocial services that are needed within the families. As you know, there are issues to do with drug use and abuse. There are issues to do with violence, gender-based violence that's happening within families. So my ask is that we need to do more in terms of recognizing these indicators and intervening early. These are the foundations that actually keep families strong and prevent separation before it even begins. So pillar number two is about the family-based alternatives. I always say that the only alternative to family is actually family. And anyway, you can contest, you can argue, but I believe that we've all sort of designed family-based care alternatives, and we start with kinship care, we have guardianship. For those who are Muslim, there is kafala, we have foster care, and we also have local adoption. I think that if we really labored on these family-based care alternatives, most of the children won't be ending up in the orphanages. Put simply, every child should grow up in a family, not an institution. Pillar number three is about transitioning, and I know my colleague has a breakout session about transitioning. So the pillar about transitioning is all about how do we strengthen tracing, case management, strengthen aftercare services, but also how do we redeploy or redesign our programs so that they are more centered on the community and the family. So this is really important, and we should ensure quality, ensure that they are also community-centered. In short, it makes the shift from institution to families both practical and sustainable. Next slide, please. Sorry, there is one on the caregivers, and but I'll move. Yes. So supporting caregivers and caregivers networks is really important. I always say that your interventions, your policies, programs should always be guided by lived experienced individuals. They know it, they've lived it. If you engage them, you'll be able to design your services better. So for me, this is a key lesson that lived experience should lead not just policy making, but also programmatic interventions. And I'm proud to mention that Kenya has one of the oldest caregivers associations. And the Kenya Society of Caregivers was established, I did establish that association in 2007 as a really young person. And it is an organization that is created for and by caregivers themselves. The network actively advocates for family-based care. These are young people who've grown up in orphanages who really say, I wish I grew up in a family. And so that's one of our key roles as Kenya Society of Caregivers. And the other thing that we do, we also talk for on behalf of those children who are still in the orphanages. And our work really also involves finding ways in which we can seek support for these young people in terms of employment, in terms of trauma services, and I was really encouraged by the trauma session. And this is one thing that I would also like to engage the team from the Trauma Free World to see how young people with lived experience can actually be supported with this kind of intervention. It has also played a key role in shaping conversations around policies, legislations, standards, and other important steps within the care reform. I'm also delighted to announce that countries like Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, even Ghana have started these networks. Please pay attention to them, listen to them, and support them, but also involve them when you're developing your standards, laws, and other policies. The other slide, please, is on investing in care reform. Again, we really can't say there is political will without investment in care reform. For me, this is something that we've really learned, that we can really talk a lot about care reform. And at times we really waste donors' money because we start initiatives, and then it's like when the donor leaves, the initiative falls. And so for us, we really need to hold our governments accountable, that they really need to invest in care reform. We can't, and someone did talk about this again, we can't rely forever on donor money. We have to show, we have to prioritize what really matters, and that is the children. So for me, this is important. So the government of Kenya has demonstrated strong commitment to financing care reform. And I'm excited to actually announce that they proposed an initial 2 billion Kenya shillings within what they are calling the Child Welfare Fund. And this money will go towards supporting orphanages that want to transition. The money will also go towards organizations that are supporting these orphanages to transition. And so for us, really, this is an important steps because care reform, yeah, thank you so much. So care reform started all the way back. We're talking about almost 2007. And the government has never committed a single coin to it. So it's taken years, and even my beards have become gray. Anyway, I think it's really important that we push our governments to really invest in care reform. Last but not least, the other slide, please. Pilots are key. We must start small before we scale and learn to iterate. We need to learn to pivot where necessary. We are not asking you to jump into the fire. I think you really need to see what works, and pilots are important. We cannot do this alone, and this is really important. Care reform demands collaboration across sectors. And as you're working, make sure that you bring in people from the health department, people from the education, people from the disability, people who are working on early childhood development, justice, law enforcement, because all these issues are issues that push children to the institutions. And so you all need to be of one mind, but there has to be a convergence of services. Thank you. He's telling me my time is up, but I'm almost there. The other one is, let's try and address the push and pull factors. There is one quote that I always love, that remove poverty, do not remove the child from the family. So before you even think of removing that child from the family, let's ask ourselves, can we address the push and the pull factors? Again, we will never tire of talking about prevention through family strengthening. This has been talked about all over. For me, that's really important. Again, I did talk about the laws and policies. They are important, but there is also one thing that we need to change, our attitudes. And you know, there are some people who've argued that we've always had these institutions, but these institutions are very foreign. Africa is known for families. Long ago, let me say even not long ago, even now, most of the children are actually in kinship care. When a person died, when a person was not able to care for a child, it's our kin who used to step in. So we can actually reinvigorate, we can revive that system. And lastly, last but not least, care reform is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So please, this is a journey, and I'm really grateful for the team here, the Waacs team, that they're actually understanding that this is actually a marathon. It's a step-by-step thing, and I'm really inspired by you all. So in short, thank you so much. My colleague from Rwanda is coming up here, and before we do that, she's going to show a video. So please, our coordinator of the IT staff here.
urebye nyine muri make ubuzima bwo mu kigo ntabwo bwari bwiza, wasangaga harimo nk'abana bakuru nyine, bamwe bakurusha imbaraga bakagukubita, bamwe bakakwaka ibiryo nyine. Hari n'igihe yego babaga bahinduye nk'abakozi ukumva bari kutubwira nabi, bakanadukubita bakanadutuka, mbese ukumva ko nyine n'ubundi rero nta kintu umaze, kumva ko mbese byaba byiza ari uko waba wakwipfira ukarangira. Nko mu gihe cyo gutaha nyine abandi babyeyi baza gufata abana, njye nkaguma muri icyo kigo kuko mu rugo n'ubundi ntabashaga kuba nahagera, ugasanga nyine muri njye ntabwo mbyishimiye.
Najyaga njya kumusura, yabaga akinkubita amaso, kubona agize udusansema, akumva ko twajana, akagira ubwuzu, yumvaga yishimye cyane akimbona, ariko najyaga gutaha hakaba igihe ntashye mutorotse.
Cyiza cyo mu muryango ni uko uba uri kumwe n'ababyeyi bawe, cyane nka gutya wenda saa sita cyangwa ku mugoroba mukaba mwicaye nyine ku meza mwese muri kuganira, uri kubona ari ibintu byiza cyane, uba uri kumva ko nawe ufite agaciro.
Ni umwana ubona wishimye, ni umwana ubona ufite kuraje,
mbese muri make ni iby'agaciro kuba ndi mu muryango wanjye.
Mbere ko duhura na Hope ntabwo twatubayeho neza. Umwana yari yarahagaritse n'imiti, yafataga imiti ariko biye byarahagaze. Ubwo nyuma ko duhura na Hope, umwana asuye ku bitaro, ubu afata imiti ya buri kwezi, ajyaga ikintu cyo kugagara, ariko kubera iyo miti iri kumworohera biri kugenda biragabanuka. Hope yatujije ku bintu byinshi, yaraduhuguye, duhabwa amahugurwa nk'umuryango. Tumaze guhabwa amahugurwa nk'umuryango, n'umugabo igihe ikintu bimuhinduraho. natangiye akabyumva kuko hagiye kenshi wumva ngo umwana kugira ubumuga ngo byaturutse ku mubyeyi w'umumama, ariko yumvise amahugurwa amenya intandaro wenda y'ubumuga ahantu iba yaturutse. Noneho ikindi kintu ku nkunga Hope yagiye iduha icyo yatumariye, twakuyemo inzu turatuye n'utundi dufaranga dukeya nkujana mu gucuruza nkora ubwajenti.
Naho hari gahunda ya ICD, hari urugo mbonezamikurire. Iyindi gahunda tugiramo n'ubundi tugira gahunda iriya yitwa transitional class ku bana basa nk'abigiye hejuru ariko bafite bwa bumuga bwo mu mutwe cyangwa ubumuga bukomatanyije. Iyindi gahunda tugira ni iy'ubuvuzi cyangwa ubugorozi bya physio. Iyo ya physio hari ababyeyi baba bashobora gukora iyo physio bakazana abana babo tukabakorera physio gusa bagataha, ariko hari n'abana baba baniga ariko banakorerwa n'iyo physio.
Akamaro ikigo cyagiriye bari abana, icya mbere ni uko abana bari mu bwigunge, ariko kuri bagenda bahura n'abandi bana bigenda bibafungura, ukabona umwana yibandaga kuri mama we gusa, ariko ukabona ngo yahuye n'abandi bana asigara akina akanagenda mu gihe yigumiraga ahantu hamwe gusa.
Ndashimira itsinda ryanjye kuko itsinda nkirigeramo nari umuntu wari warihebye, ariko nkigera mu itsinda nasanzemo ababyeyi duhuje ibibazo bafite abana bafite ubumuga bukomatanyije nk'awanjye, bityo itsinda ryangejeje ku ntama, ubu ndoroye, intama yanjye yarabyaye. Ikindi itsinda ryatumye nsa neza, nari umuntu wari warihebye, umwana wanjye yahoraga mu gikari, umwana wanjye nta na hano nari mujyanaga. Ndashimira itsinda byimbitse.
Hope yaradufashije ku bikorwa yabashije gukorera abaturage bacu, ndetse n'imikorere n'imikoranire yacu ukabona nta makemwa. Uvuga ngo ikintu turagitegurana mbere y'uko igikorwa kiba, tukagitegura tukakiganiraho, tukumvikana n'uburyo kizashyirwa mu bikorwa, ndetse no mu ishyirwa mu bikorwa byabyo tukaba turi kumwe, ku buryo mu by'ukuri hatabaho guhusanya cyangwa se umwe agakora ibye n'undi ibye, ahubwo ni ibyo tuba twaganiriyeho kandi binafasha na wa muturage ku byifuzo afite yifuza kugeraho.
Hope uburyo nayishimiramo yambereye igisubizo, amarira twariraga ubu yarahanaguritse burundu, kuko uburyo twahoraga duhangayitsemo ubu nta muntu ugihangayika ngo arataha ate arataha he. Kuri twe ubwo ntonabona nuko nashimira abo bavandimwe, uretse ko mbabonye wenda ubwo ahari nacurira.
Of you, talking about the journey of Rwanda as someone who was involved since the beginning of the journey and at all levels. So you saw the video. I wish I could continue in Kinyarwanda, and I hope you understood a bit the story behind how the integration is connected with the entire community, local authorities and services into the community. So this story is not about only Rwanda. It shows what is possible when government, communities and partners work together and put children first. Our main idea is simple. Every child should grow up in a safe and loving family. This is the foundation of everything. And this we are convinced from evidences that every child, even the one with disabilities, I'm coming back on that because I know that most of the time people say it depends on disability. But I can say from evidence and experience that with proper support, every child, even the one with severe and complicated disability, they can be in families. Even I can stop my presentation here, but this is the messages I want to leave here, that every child, even the one lying on the bed, they deserve to be in families. So we need to do that for them. So, next slide. I think you want to, I need to go fast because of the time. I'll just go a little bit fast on the milestones. We began in 2012, and we started by a survey to know the number of institutions in the country and the number of children in. And we found, together with the government, we found 33 institutions for children without disabilities, and with 3,323 in. And we found that the plan alone was not enough, so the government started directly to be involved and convinced that it is possible to have, because of the survey that showed that 70% of children had their own families. So by 2017, Rwanda had trained about 30,000 community volunteers. They are called Inshuti z'Umuryango, that is the friends of families. There were ordinary people in villages who supported families and children. They became very important for the reform, and without them, the change would not have been worked. Next slide. The progress continued in the following years. By 2018, more than 90% of children from orphanages had returned home. This happened because of careful planning, family tracing, and strong government support. In the same year, Rwanda started to focus on children with disabilities because they were not left behind. 2 institutions for children with disabilities began to change. This was a new and very difficult step. Until today, we are still finalizing that step. But the goal was very clear: no child should be left behind. By 2021, these 2 institutions had become community day care centers. They still support children, but now in a family and community setting. By 2024, more institutions for children with disabilities were being reviewed for closure, and Rwanda also created Malaika Mulinzi Day to thank foster families who care for children. Now, the next slide, I'm talking about the numbers again. In 1994, after the genocide, more than 10,000 children were in institution. By 1995, this number increased to 12,700 children in 77 institutions, which was the highest point in Rwanda. And in 2012, there were, the number I said before, 3,323, and then the number was updated to 3,782. Today, in 2026, only 47 children remain in 3 institutions. And the reason behind is that those three institutions were not identified themselves as an institution. But with time, they came to accept that they are also an institution, and the process started. This is why they are behind. This is a 99% reduction. This change happened because of strong planning, professional system, trained workers, and foster care development. Next slide. I'm just escaping this because many of those information on the reality on institution, what kind of children were in that institution will escape because most were said here and because of the time we have. Next slide. Rwanda's success came from strong government commitment. In 2003, the Constitution stated that children should not be placed in institution without strong reason. In 2011, a national child protection policy was introduced, and in 2012, the government approved a care reform strategy and created a national agency for child development. From 2013, the government worked with UNICEF partners and communities under the Tubarere Muryango program, and from 2018, laws were strengthened to support adoption, guardianship, and child protection. This success came from strong leadership, teamwork across sectors, and full ownership at all levels of government. I can say that many of this I'm saying was said since yesterday, but in Rwanda, that was what has been done together with the government and partners. Next slide. This point also was said like recommendation, but in Rwanda it has been done. People made the work, the reform work. At district level, professional social workers and psychologists provided support. At community level, volunteers worked directly with families. Their role was to help children return to family and to prevent family separation at the first place. This workforce is one of the most important reasons for success, because systems only work when people deliver them. So, next slide. I will escape also this because of the time. Next slide. Yes. Because of the time, I will go to the recommendation some people was also talking about. Closing a institution is not the end. it is the beginning of something better. Many former institutions in Rwanda were transformed into community services, such as daycare centers, therapy centers, family support spaces, and schools that is supporting now more children in the community and families comparing to the number of children in institutions. That part is very difficult to convince them, but then when they accept to jump, they are really happy with the work they are doing in the community. This ensures children still receive support, but in a family and the community environment, it also shows communities that reform is building better system, not removing support. This is a message also for the one on the advocacy part. And someone said it yesterday that we need to not blame those institutions. This is true, but we need to support them to change their way of working, to serve more people and give more impact in the community. So next slide, I'm going to talk about challenges, because when we say that we are almost at the end of the closing all institutions in Rwanda, it's not going so easily. There is many challenges until today. The journey was not easy. As we all know, orphanages are easy responses to many people, starting by families themselves. When there is an issue, that having the response there, it is easy. And local authorities, they are the ones to solve many issues. And then orphanages are just easy response for them. And I will also talk about those orphanages. This is a easy business for people, just putting children there, and it is also easy for donors to give their support at a place where you have a number of children, easy to have pictures to show, easy to, I don't know how it's said in English, but it is really easy for everybody to have orphanages. This means that you will face resistance at all levels when you start this work. And it was the same in Rwanda. So they resisted. I heard the testimony yesterday from a former institution staff. They fear to lose the job. Also the fear to not having a place where you will just have response when challenges come. It means that awareness has to be reviewed many times because also of the turnover of authorities. I think this is the reality in many places in Africa. Also, the challenge about data inside the institution was something is really weak, and stigma around disability remained a challenge. Family also struggled after integration because of the cost, health need, and limited support. Another challenge also was the COVID-19. It's made things more difficult by delaying services and decreasing economic pressure. These challenges were real, but they also provided important lesson for the future. I'm going to talk about lesson. Next slide. I will just take 6. First is this, the people talked about it. Strong government commitment is essential. Without government, you will not move. Second is the community solution. And the third one is the training of workforce. Fourth one is strong child protection system. which is the foundation of reform. The first one is long-term funding, and the last is the continuous advocacy that needs to keep progress going. The next slide is the recommendation based from our experience. I think it is matching with the recommendation of all presenters before me. Based on our experience, we recommend strengthening families so children can stay with them. Countries should invest in social workers and community volunteers, because in our context of Africa, in the community is really strong. They should also build strong foster and kinship care system. And also, we can talk about regional learning between Africa countries, but others are talking about that. Finally, African problem should be solved using African evidence and solutions, not bringing it from outside. Thank you very much for your attention.
I'm sure we've all enjoyed these wonderful lessons from our East African brother and sister. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much, VDV. We have a lot more brothers in our midst this morning, and I want to welcome our brothers and sisters from Côte d'Ivoire, the land of ivory. Côte d'Ivoire, are they here? Yes, we want to say bienvenue to you all. We also have some wonderful brothers and sisters joining us from Cameroon. Are they here? Yes. Let's give it up to them. Yes, some at the back. Let's give it up to them. You are all welcome. We are happy to have you in our midst. We have a next talk, and I want us to gear up for it. And it's focused more on mentoring. And I'm sure this is something, especially those of us working with youth, will enjoy. So kindly make sure that you don't relax at all and you're able to listen to this very well. To help us through this session, we have Grace Na and Theodora Olusoji from Christian Association of Youth Mentoring. They are learned mentoring coaches, both international and then local, and they are going to help us. Thank you.
Hello everyone. You are looking dull. Can we just stand up and just stretch? I know we've heard a lot of numbers, statistics and all. Let's just stretch. You know, we engage with young people, so we have to show that we are youthful too, right? So let's stretch, move around, shake somebody, say hello to someone. All right, thank you very much. You can be seated. Okay. Right. My name is Theodora and
Grace Naini.
And we are here for CAYM, Christian Association of Youth Mentoring, to talk about mentoring. Next slide. We're going to be talking about why mentoring is the missing link in scaling family-based care across West Africa. Across West African governments, NGOs, and faith-based organizations, I mean, all of us here, we are here helping children to move from institutions to families. Our ultimate goal is not just placement. but giving these children a sense of belonging. Next slide. The great shift is happening from institutional care to family-based care. And of course, we've been hearing about national reforms. We've been hearing about family unification. Foster and kinship care is expanding, and thousands of children are transitioning. The transitioning is happening, but the challenge now is sustaining outcomes. So placement is not the finish line. The next line, placement is not the finish line. Go up, up, yes. Placement is not the finish line. We have commitment, and then placement is the starting line. After placement, there is transition and belonging, and then we have thriving adults. It is the starting line because while most systems focus on placement, do we then say that placement is success? That's a question I want us to ask ourselves. Do we now say that placement is success because we've already placed them in homes? Is success measured by where a child lives? That's a question I want you to think about. Success is actually measured by who walks alongside these children. And so we're going to be talking about social capital. So what happens after placement? That is the question I want to ask as well. What happens after placement? What happens when a young person transitions from care into adulthood without consistent guidance, without a trusted adult, without the sense of identity and belonging, without social support networks, what we call social capital, and without a relational community? This simply shows that care reform alone is important, yes, but it cannot actually solve the problem of relational poverty. So this is the challenge. We've seen a lot of research that shows that children that live, or youth that have transitioned out of care, even after they have been placed, they remain vulnerable to violence, to abuse, to emotional distress, and to risky behavior.
And this is the underlying challenge that we are having. When you talk of the underlying reasons, yes, we are moving or we are transiting these youths from the home cares, from the children's homes, from the orphanages. But after they transition into the family care, they need someone. They need someone to work with them, and they need this person because these youths or children still long to belong. They have a deep desire to be loved. They have that deep desire to be accepted. This is something that they've been having in the home care, and now moving to family care, they need to belong. They need to feel that they are loved and they are accepted. In this case, again, we need to be very careful about the broken relationships. Maybe they were closer to God, closer to care in the children's home. Now that they are moving to their family care, they need to have this continuation of kind of a relationship in terms of, are they still connected with God? Are they still having that family care? Are they still relating well with the new peers now that they've moved from the children's homes and they are now relating anew? Will they be able to relate with the new peers? And then there's an aspect of isolation and rejection. Living without a meaningful connection is something that these youths will face even after leaving home care. So we need to think of how can we be able to bridge this gap. Therefore, we are talking of longing to belong. We are talking of the broken relationships that need to be checked on, and we are talking of isolation and rejection. Next slide, please. And when we talk of a sense of belonging, what are we talking about? We are talking of a number of things here, and it is broken into 5 categories. One is how these youth, we are talking of express care, we are talking of challenge growth, we are talking of providing support, and we are talking of sharing power. And when you talk of the express care as the first element, These children, when they move out of a children's home, or maybe from a home where they're moving out of it and they're now moving to a new family, they're asking themselves, who can care of me? Who can listen to me? Whom can I talk to? And they ask themselves about, how can I get someone who can challenge me to grow? Where can I get someone who can actually provide support in case I have an emotional need, or maybe I have something I need to know? And they're again asking themselves, who can propel us to expand possibilities, or maybe just to know what is expected of me. And when you talk of this, we are talking of mentoring coming as an aspect that can be able to help our youths living care to move to actually growing and developing in terms of relationships. Mentoring helps to build belonging, it helps to build resilience, and it helps to guide them into actually making positive choices and help them when it comes to thriving adulthood. So the hopeful work of mentoring helps to provide a sense of belonging. That's what we are saying. Once this foundational need for belonging is met, the youth often grows in other important areas such as resilience, and they are able to make the right choices, and they are able to increase a chance of thriving even in adulthood. So in other words, we are saying it's easy to yes, transition youths, but we need to ask ourselves who is walking alongside them. Yes, we've transitioned them, we've placed them in families, yes, but who is walking with them? Are they able to have someone closer to them, someone who is able to show them the way, someone whom they can approach, someone whom they can connect with in terms of able to share their feelings outside there? And that's why we are talking of connected relationships, successful transition outcomes linked to all the above mentioned there. Connected relationships, social belonging, the emotional support that these youth require, and long-term guidance. So social belonging, it's also called social capital, and it includes the relational network needed for our being as humans. And therefore, when we get into a breakout session, we'll be looking at how can you be able to help these youths transition and have potential mentors who can be able to work with them. How can we be able not just to cut short the relationship that we've had with them from the care homes? How can we be able to help them transition with the new life in the new families they are joining? How will we be able to work with them? And this reminds us of the words of Jesus in Matthew 28:19, whereby Jesus commands us to go and make disciples of all nations. And this is exactly the point where we are talking of mentoring. How are we holding them by their hands even after leaving the care homes? How are we holding them by their hands and actually work with them until they are able to make their own decision? They are able to relate with them, relate well in the new families. How will they be able to thrive even in their future life, having someone walk beside them? So I have a story from a young boy called Prince. Move to the next slide, please. Yeah, that one. So Prince is a young boy. Prince actually did not know his dad. He lost his dad when he was immediately when he was born. And after birth, he had never experienced a father figure in his life. And when St. Paul Hub is a program which I ran in Kenya, and we introduced Pastor Dan to him as a mentor, and his life changed completely. They are now in their second year of working together, and Prince calls his mentor my good friend, and says this about him: I got a friend whom I can approach and share everything about me. So these children, even as they move from the children's home and be placed into the families, They still need someone whom they can call friends. They still need someone who can walk with them. They still need someone who can actually help them have a sense of belonging, feel that they belong to that place. So meet us in our breakout session as we discuss about how can you be able to recruit potential mentors in your own place, in your own organization, in your church and in your community to enable you walk, march with the children, and they'll be able to walk together in Jesus' name.
All right, thank you, Grace. So we also have another story from Nigeria. I'm sure we have some people from Standout here, Standout Mentoring. If you're here, I just want you to wave your hands. Yeah, thank you so much. And of course, we know of Kanafi. He's a young participant with Standout Mentoring, and this is what he has to say about his mentor. My mentor has taught me the true meaning of dedication and taking responsibility. This statement captures the real work of transition, not simply providing services, but shaping identity, responsibility, confidence, and a sense of belonging. So mentoring provides what systems alone cannot. Now, we are not saying that all that we have been talking about is, a waste of time. We are just saying that mentoring is actually something that can help us put a little bit of structure in whatever it is we are putting in place. A mentor becomes a trusted adult to this person transitioning out of care. He becomes a stable relational anchor, a guide through transition, an accountability partner, and often the first enduring support relationship outside of institutional care. And that is what we are pushing for. So the next slide. So that's why we are saying mentoring is an integral part to transitioning. It is the bridge between commitment and implementation. So that's what we are trying to say here. Mentoring is the bridge between commitment and implementation. It helps people living care to thrive, and it helps them to develop relationships. So the next slide is a picture of Standout Mentoring. Of course, I think some of us were part of the talk last year, 2025 in Nigeria. So we provide a mentoring network designed to coach and encourage and advocate for healthy mentoring ministry across West African countries. So you are invited, like she said already, to our breakout session. I'm sure you must have seen these on your table. Yes, aging out or up. So if you want to be a part of our breakout session, you can just pick this and join us in our breakout session. This is another picture of what is happening in Kenya, where Grace is, with some of the members of CAYM there. So you can change the world. The next slide. You can change the world one person at a time. You can change the world one person at a time. A child who is changed is a generation that is transformed. And mentoring is that missing link. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, please, one more time, let's put our hands together for them. Okay. So part of what we want to do is not just to give us talks back to back. So we take 30 seconds. We have one more talk. Then we'll have our snack break. So where you are, can you please just stand to your feet? Stand to your feet. You know, you've been seated for about 25 minutes. I'll call young Pan to come up. Okay, no, let's just stretch. Let's just stretch. Let's just stretch very quickly. Just stretch. Isaac, can you please? Just stretch your legs. Azubike is looking like he's preparing for a match. Or are you playing? All right, so Azubike, let me just put you on the spot. Just come up, sir. All right, Azubike, I'm putting you on the spot, so a quick stretch. Just 1 minute. What you are doing, like we're preparing for a match. Already is World Cup, so go ahead.
All right, so let's just stretch our bodies. So let's just go. Left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, and then you switch. Left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right. All right, right, down, left to right, left to right, and then the other side. Left to right, left to right, left to right.
A round of applause for Azubike. All right, please be seated. All right, so I'll call out Mr. Ade to introduce the next speaker for today. Please, a round of applause for Ade as he comes up. Please put those hands together for him as he comes up.
Well, thank you. I just found out I have to introduce the next speaker. So here we go. Well, this next speaker is a wonderful man of God. He's my friend, my spiritual mentor, someone who keeps me in check in careful. Not other person by Pastor Ray Fat, one of the founding members of Zimbabwe Without Orphans, careful African spiritual leader. So he's gonna be talking about how leaders rest. You guys are always busy. So he's gonna be talking about a topic about how do leaders rest? How do you take your rest? Spiritual formation. So he's a pastor. So get ready. You might go. I've asked him to don't let the Holy Spirit take over because we have so many things. So please put your hands together for my friend, my mentor, Pastor Ray Refat, all the way from Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Ade, for that wonderful introduction. So happy to be here. My first time in Ghana. I've been always loving Ghana because of one person. That name is Semenyo. Me and Semenyo, we have one thing in common, is that he plays for Man City and I support Man City. So yeah, congratulations to you guys for winning. Yeah, right now we're gonna get into this topic, and we're gonna talk about why soul care is critical to care transition. Something that as K4 we do on a monthly basis, and I'm hoping that this will help us as we continue to save the vulnerable as well as those that are in our care. First thing that I want to say is that you can't serve from an empty cup. You can't serve from an empty cup. As I was listening from yesterday to today, I have just listened to people who are so passionate about what they do, people who are loving what they are, doing in their countries, in their organizations, and in our communities. We're just surrounded by people who are giving. And we are just pouring out, pouring our lives, pouring our time, pouring out our resources. But the question that I would love to ask this afternoon is that how many of us are able to sit back and receive? As much as we are pouring out, how many of us are taking time to receive and to allow someone to pour into our lives? Something that I feel is so critical if we are going to be successful in what we are doing for the vulnerable. Now, working in the fields of the vulnerable, next slide please. Working in the fields of the vulnerable or the fatherless, leaves us in a world where we hold on to seemingly contradictory words at the same time. Beauty and brokenness interwoven into the stories of our families. Next slide. Every ministry and organization requires two things. Firstly, it requires intentional habits to build people up without burning out. Now, burning out is one huge thing that happens when we save the vulnerable. And secondly, it requires self-care. And it is something that we want to focus on a little bit more this morning, as to how then do we practice self-care, because it's so critical. When we are serving, when we are loving, when we are giving, this is something that we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. But in most cases, we think about those that we are serving, and yet we hardly look at ourselves. How much time do I need to take to look at myself? How much resources do I need to put into myself? How much time do I need to look into myself and really the things that I need to focus on as a person? Because the more we give, the more we become empty, and the more we need others to pour into our lives. So self-care is one thing that we really need to focus on. How then do we take self-care for ourselves? Next slide. Number one is we need to prioritize on rest. Rest is one thing that is so critical as a leader, as a pastor, as a manager, as a father, or as someone who is caring for others. You need to learn to take rest. Now, rest is something that we need to be intentional with, something that we need to say, you know what, I need to take time just to rest away from the day-to-day involvement of what we do. Many of us, we are scared of rest, because sometimes we think that when I take time to be away from what I do, the work might die. But let me say this: if you are scared that your work will die because you have taken time to rest, taken time just to be away from the busyness of the work that you do, then you need to ask yourself this second question: is that work your work or God's work? Because if it is God's work, why are you scared of going away? If it is God's work, why are you scared to just take time to be away, to say, Lord, I need to be refreshed. I need time to hear from you. I need time just to listen to you, oh God. And the more you take time to listen from God, the more you begin to hear God directing you and showing you what you need to do for His glory. Because it's not about us, it's about God. Right? It's about God. And if we are scared about the work that is dying, you might as well let it die. Here is another question. The work that you do today, if you did not have, or you do not have funds, if you do not have resources, will you continue in that work? Will you continue saving the vulnerable? Or you are doing it because you know that perhaps maybe by the end of the month there's a check coming? And when we save God not because of what I'm getting. It's because I'm serving, because I feel this is the calling from God, and God has called me to save the vulnerable. The ones that I know that one day when we stand before God in heaven, God is gonna say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that is the moment I'm looking forward to. Not the moment where people say thank you for what I've done here on earth. No, but for the day where God will say to me, well done, my good and faithful servant. So prioritize rest. It's so critical, it's so important to rest, you know, because it's so important, because your life is, it's someone else, maybe it's a child or someone that you are serving, is looking up to you, right? It's looking up to you for direction, for mentorship. So taking rest, it helps you to actually perform better, because you know that what you are doing, you're doing it for someone who is watching you and wanting that direction from you. Secondly, you need to learn to live with forgiveness. Sometimes as leaders, we begin to work in an environment where frustrations happen, where anger happens, where letting down happens, where people say or do all kinds of things that will leave us broken or even hurt. And now because of that, many of us, we continue to serve with bitterness and anger, because people have let you down, because people have hurt you. And sometimes we go into the field of the broken already, those that are broken, and we try to save them from our own brokenness. Let me say this: hate people. So the more you are going to continue serving with that brokenness, the more damage you are doing to those that are in need of healing. So forgiveness then helps us to save from a point where I'm feeling that I am having the freedom and the peace and the love and the understanding that the forgiveness that I've received from God is the same forgiveness I'm also sharing with others. You also need to check on your spiritual life regularly. If we are going to look into our spiritual journey, we need to look at how is it that we are doing. What is it that we need to look at? How are we doing ourselves? Are you closer to God? What you are doing, is it bringing you closer to God, or is it driving you away from God? What you are doing, is it really glorifying God, or you are seeing all more of frustration, anger, and the letdowns? Or are you really knowing and experiencing God in your day-to-day basis? Next slide, please. And as K4, we have what we call spiritual formation, and basically what we do is we do a couple of things, and we need to understand that spiritual formation is kind of like a lifeline thrown at you as a leader, that we need to develop an ongoing inner transformation to sustain our work. And secondly, we need to look at the burnouts and compassionate fatigue. These things happen to all of us when we serve the vulnerable. And as well as the common challenges in orphan care ministry, they affect us, all of us. They're just the same. You go anywhere in the world, the challenges and the issues that we face are all the same. So as K4 has developed a spiritual formation for leaders serving in the vulnerable and the orphans. And this formation, next slide please, it's a discipleship rhythm, right? It's a monthly spiritual disciplines that helps us connect with God. And each month we focus on one topic followed by a number of questions to help us bring more from the topic. In other words, as we discuss and talk about, one of my favorite one is prayer. And when we pray as people, what is it that we should be focusing on? what is it that we should be doing, and how then do we pray? How then do we mobilize the people, even those that we are serving, to spend time in prayer? So those are some of the things that we do in this spiritual formation, and we are inviting you as leaders to join us on a monthly basis. It's just once a month, the first Tuesday of every month. We are inviting you to join online wherever you are. We invite everyone so that together we can encourage one another, inspire one another, and uplift one another, so that we continue to serve God from a capacity where we feel very much fulfilled, and also understanding that God wants us to serve from an overflowing position. And also, it's a community and a practice, a growth that happens when we come together in a small group, and we talk and we share our challenges. One of the things that I've learned over these years is that in that community, I find people that I become vulnerable to, people that I share with my life, people I speak to my challenges. Let me say this, as a leader, you need a person who becomes a confidant in your life, someone that you can open up to, share the challenges that you are facing as a leader, and together we see us growing. So, next slide. Healthy trees bear good fruits. Number one is that God wants us to bear fruit, or to become fruitful in our work, and he gives us a command in the book of John 15 verse 4 to 5, and he says, remain in me and in the vine. In other words, God is saying, if we are going to be fruitful, and if we are going to bear fruits for the kingdom and for the work that we are doing, and to be successful in what we do, we gotta have to learn to remain in the vine. And he goes on to say, if we are to bear good fruits, we need to abide in him. Good fruits, comes from us abiding in him. And fruitfulness cannot be forced in anyone or from anyone. It is a natural byproduct of our relationship with God. The more we spend time in the presence of God, the more we are going to become fruitful in the work that we do. And spending time in prayer and studying the word keeps you spiritual nourished. And that's what we do together in that moment where we come together in that spiritual formation. Now, I have asked a couple of people to help me with this. Next slide, please. I've asked people to put some cups on your table, right? There are cups on your table. And then those who have those cups, and you have been given specific instructions not to do anything or not to touch them, because I was going to give you the following instruction. Now, for those who have got those cups, I want two people to stand, please. One holding that cup on each table. Let's do that. My time is running out. Let's do that quickly. Just two people, right, face each other. I want you to face each other, right, holding that cup. Make sure that there is a bottle of water on your table, a full bottle of water on your table, right? Now, here is what I want you to do. In closing, you can't give what you don't have, right? Now, I want you to look at that cup, right? Try to pour something out of that cup. Don't pour in anything in it. But those who are holding a cup, can you pour something out of the cup? All right? Why is it empty? There's nothing in it, okay? That cup represents you. That cup represents the work that you do. If you do not spend time receiving from God and receiving from those that can mentor you, your cup comes, it can run dry. And many of our cups are dry. And when they're dry, many of us, we grumble. Many of us, we complain. Most of us, we turn to doing all kinds of things, and we even become angry with, to the children that we are serving. Why? Is because our cup, our lives are empty. Now, I want those who are holding a bottle of water, I want you to start. Those who are holding a cup, I want you to hold it. And those who are holding a bottle of water, I want you to start pouring into that cup. Right? Just be away from the table. I don't want you to mess the table. Just keep pouring. And that pouring is the formation that we are talking about. The time that we want people to come and receive. People that hearing the word of God, receiving from the word of God, spending time in fellowship, spending time to hear from God. Keep pouring. Keep pouring. Keep pouring. And when you keep pouring, it becomes full. And when it becomes full, it begins to overflow. And when it begins to overflow, you begin to walk in abundance. See, that's what God wants you to do. God wants you to walk in abundance, not in lack, not in half cup, but God wants you to walk in abundance when you begin to flow in abundance of the presence of God. Look at this. How is your cup? How is your cup? As you leave this conference, as you leave this summit, I want you to leave this summit not half empty, but I want you to leave this summit, full with the word of God, so that we can go and save those that we are saving with the abundance that comes from God. Lastly, as I conclude, a leader must stay nourished. The last slide, please. For us to pour into others, we need to let others pour into us. Our cup must remain full and overflowing. Allow God to pour into your life today. God bless you.
Please, a round of applause for Reverend Ray for an amazing session. You can make it louder. You can make it louder. 1 minute, please. All right. So Reverend Ray took some people to church this afternoon. You just need a praise session, then you need the offering, and we're good to go. All right. So we're going to be doing two things at the same time. Are you getting full with the information you've been receiving? You're overflowing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But don't get constipated yet. All right? Because there's still a bit more. Thank you so much. I'm grateful, Isaac. So we're going to be doing two things simultaneously. We're going to be breaking into our groups or rooms. We have 4 rooms. The first one is, that's room 1, is partnership and network development. That's the first talk we had today by Sibilu Boja and Ade. So that's going to be room 1 after the veil on this side. The second one is going to be, or will be, diving deep into regional advocacy. Diving deep into regional advocacy, which Stephen and VDV will be doing, which is going to be here around the screen, but the initial was around in the middle, but this is going to be in front for screen use. And the third one is going to be connect with CAYM. So all the groups are based on all of the speakers that we had. So you want to connect with Sibilu Boja, that's your side after the veil. You want to connect with Steve, you want to connect with Stephen, is going to be on this side. You want to ask Dora and Grace some questions, is going to be on this side. And you still want some Pastor Ray Mycene, more those from Pastor Ray is going to be speaking on church engagement. Now, his talk is not going to be, his room is not going to be on the talk he had with us. What we're going to be speaking on for those who go to his room will be church engagement, how to engage church in what it is that we are doing. But now, before we do that, are we clear with the room division? If you are clear, can you just wave your hand so that I know that we got information? All right. So this is how we're going to do it. You pick your snack, then head to your group. You pick your snack, then head to your group. So we all would gradually row by row so that it's not too distorted. Pick your snack. Please, we notice that some of us would want to sit here. Avoid the temptation of sitting behind the veil to eat. It's only for rooms. Just pick it and go straight to your room. Then lastly, yes, as you pick the snack, let's ensure that we dispose properly. We notice that it's increasing the flies that we've been having. So row by row, pick your snack. Ma, we good? Pick your snack, head to your room. Pick your snack, head to your room. All right, we can go ahead and move. You can go ahead and proceed to the snack table. Pick your snack, head to your room. Don't forget, room 1 after the veil, room 2 is here, room 3 is here, room 4 is there. Room 1 again, I'll repeat it just to reinforce the information. Room 1 is partnership and network development. Room 2 is diving deep into regional advocacy, which is here. Room 3, you connect with Grace and Dora here. Then we'll connect with Pastor Ray and Inyasa behind the veil to my left, which is your right. So please, let's approach the table. Approach, pick your lunch, head to your room. Pick your lunch, head to your room. Pick your snack, thank you, ma. Pick your snack, head to your room. Pick your snack, head to your room. If we can have some people from the table, about 5 minutes after people pick, we'll just go around and get a bag to collect the empty plates so that we reduce the flies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we'll give about 10 minutes for this movement. Media, thank you. Can we have 10 minutes just for us to pick up and get started? In 10 minutes, or let's just say in 7 minutes, in 10 minutes, 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, the rooms will kick off. In 10 minutes, the room will kick off. 10 minutes, the room will kick off. In 10 minutes, the room will kick off. Again, room 1 is Sabilu, Boja, and Adeolowo. Room 2 is Stephen and VDV. Room 3 is CAYM coaches. Room 4 is Pastor Ray and Inyasa.